In Dr. Sarah Myhill's book, she says that you have to be okay with doing nothing during your recovery from this chronic illness. And I personally couldn't agree with her more. From all the consultations I've done with people and looking back at my experience with chronic illness, the amount of pressure people place on themselves and to achieve when they've recovered, or the goals they set themselves, it usually ends up being very detrimental to them and their recovery. Because if they don't live up to those goals, they feel worthless, or they feel unsuccessful. They feel like they're not doing everything they can. And, the typical personality of people I speak to is a all or nothing attitude. Keep going, achieve. And if you're not doing that, you're being lazy. And that mentality is what got us into the mess we're in already. So to follow that same personality trait to get out of this, it's probably not the best idea. It wasn't in my case anyway. And you have to give yourself a permission to do nothing. To be okay to have a day where you do absolutely nothing. And another point I'd like to make, actually, is something I spoke about on a consultation the other day. About listening to your body and not finishing things if you feel like you need to go and sit down halfway through. For example, you're washing the dishes and you get dizzy, lightheaded, and you're just like, I'll just finish the dishes and then I'll go and lie down. What you need to start doing is, when that feeling hits you of wanting to go and lie down and rest, you should do it without any questions asked. You should go and do it, leave whatever you are doing, and just go and do it. Obviously, there are circumstances where you might not be able to do that, but I'm just saying, if with common sense situations where you can just drop whatever you're doing, it's probably best to do that. But yeah, it's something that I'm noticing very common in people I speak to. And it's as if they need to hear it from somebody else, that you're placing too much pressure on yourself. Something I mentioned in a video I just did before this one was examining what goes on in your mind and how you talk to yourself, and placing those thoughts on another person and imagine them walking into your house and talking to you like you would talk to yourself. And it's usually not very nice, and it'd probably be the rudest person you've ever spoke to. And you're already going through something so difficult that the average person cannot understand unless they've been through it themselves. Losing your health to this degree is not normal, and it's very, very difficult to cope with it mentally, let alone try and overcome it. So the last thing you need is to place pressure on yourself to achieve things throughout the day. And, it's just insane when I think about how much pressure I put on myself when I was in a situation that was so dire. I've said it before, you need to be your best friend, you need to be your best supporting ally to get out of this. You need to be the one that brings up any small achievements you make, and if you have a slip up, who cares? Who cares if you have a slip up? If you've done it, you've done it, let it go, move on, keep looking forward. If you've got up off the floor after slipping up, you've achieved something. Just really being your best supporting ally. Imagine having an amazing best friend and that being the person that occupies your mind during the day and supporting you. And you'll be so happy at yourself when you get to the other side of this. Like I was. When I recovered, I look back on the person that treaded through those, what are they called? The trenches of war, And here I was, healthy, happy, out the other side. And I felt like it was another person that got me out of that mess, and I was just had so much respect for that person to pull themselves out of that absolute ditch and get themselves to where I was today. I was so, you know, I really looked at myself in a different light and really praised myself for any small accomplishments I made, because there was no one else doing it for me. And the last thing I needed was talking down to myself. Anyway, just a bit of a rant in this video. If you have any videos you'd like me to make, put them in the comment section below and I'll try and get round to doing that for you. Thanks, guys.